Live from the Carl Chevrolet Studios in West Des Moines, this is Iowa Live.
Alrighty, it's before lunch. How about we learn something before we take a break and get something to eat? That's why we call on the talents of one Professor Jeff Stein and the Iowa Almanac. Hello, Professor. How are you?
Lou, good Monday morning to you.
Yeah, good Monday morning to you as well. And we are going to teach people today about something that I'm sure everybody is familiar with, but I bet you there's some folks that may not realize there is an Iowa connection here.
Absolutely right. And it's a somewhat tragic story in many respects, Lou. Let me introduce you to Wallace Hume Carruthers. He was born in Burlington on April 27th of 1896. Wallace was the oldest of four siblings. His father was a college teacher and administrator. His favorite sister became well known as part of a musical trio that performed during the early days of radio. Well, Wallace became a scientist and began teaching at the University of South Dakota, working on organic chemistry, especially bonding. After he obtained his PhD in 1924, he began teaching at Harvard and started experimenting with chemical structures of polymers with high molecular weight. That's all I know about it. I couldn't begin to explain it to you, but I can at least read this. Well, about that same time, in 1928, the DuPont Chemical Company did something unique at the time. It opened a laboratory for basic research for development of artificial materials. Wallace Carruthers found he enjoyed research more than teaching and joined their team. He separated himself from others by his creativity, his enthusiasm, and ability to bring out the best in those working for him. His team, Lou, developed the first synthetic rubber. It was called neoprene. And that was back in 1931.
Now, neoprene is still popular today. You have to realize that, but that was not the last of this guy's inventions.
Absolutely correct. As the 1930s began, the U.S. was having a hard time obtaining enough silk to meet commercial demand. That was because of political and trade trouble with Japan, the primary silk supplier. So Wallace Carruthers and his team developed a synthetic fiber that could take the place of silk. As that research progressed, he published 31 academic research papers on the subject of polymers, helping establish terminology in the field still commonly used today. And on February 28th, this date, February 28th of 1935, a patent was granted for that synthetic fiber. The company called it, wait for it, Nylon, and it quickly replaced silk since it was strong, elastic, and unaffected by water. Within 5 years, nylon stockings were introduced, and nearly 800,000 were sold on the very first day. And by the next year, nylon stockings captured a third of the overall hosiery market.
800,000 the first day. I think
in day one.
You might be saying to yourself, I think we may have discovered something here. I think people might want this product, but you mentioned when we first started talking, kind of tragic twist to the story here.
Yeah, the celebration was enjoyed by many, but not Wallace Carruthers. He frankly did not live to see that day the sale of the nylon stockings. You see, he was prone to depression, disliked socializing, and hated public speaking. Less than 2 years after the initial discovery of nylon in 1937, that favorite sister I mentioned, she died suddenly, and that threw him into a deep depression that resulted tragically in him taking his own life shortly thereafter, 2 days after his 41st birthday and shortly before the birth of his first child. A brilliant scientist and researcher, Wallace Carruthers, never knew how popular his creation would be, but he did know the success of developing nylon when the patent was granted on this date in 1935.
Oh, absolutely tragic is an understatement for him not even to be able to see, the lives that has changed in a bunch of different applications since its creation.
No, absolutely right. Again, the synthetics are so popular now. That's what we turn to first. Hard to remember that less than a century ago was all natural materials.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. Nylon with the Iowa ties. How about that? Now, people want to go back and revisit with some of the things that you said here because it's still a hard to believe story. What is the best thing they can do and the easiest thing that they can do?
You just fire up the Google machine and go to iowaalmanac.com. We also give you a preview of each day's story on Twitter, Facebook, not Facebook, hate Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Getter, and Parler at Iowa Almanac. I got to remember where I'm at here.
If nothing else, you're very honest, Professor Stein. We appreciate that so much. And we will talk to you in just a couple of days and get some more information about something happened on this day in Iowa history with the Iowa Almanac. Take care of yourself, buddy.